Everyone knows California is one of the most expensive states to live in, but which city within California actually costs the most? Well, apparently the answer to that question is the famous San Francisco, a city known for the Golden Gate Bridge, the historic cable car system, and the oldest Chinatown ever. It has an extremely high cost of living, with median home prices coming in over at $1 million and a cost of living index of 200 compared to 100, which is the United States average. In other words, it's extremely expensive, so let's see how much money I can spend in one day. Just for context, in this video, I'm actually visiting California for the first time ever, and me and some of my friends spent several days in Yosemite National Park, which I made a video about, so feel free to check that out if you have some time. And then after that, we spent about 24 hours in San Francisco, just because we were nearby and we wanted to explore the city. Now, we're from Philadelphia, and the cost of living there is significantly different than that of San Francisco. San Francisco has a cost of living overall that is about 80% higher than the national average, which is kind of nuts. A $180,000 salary in San Francisco is roughly equivalent to a $100,000 a year salary in Philadelphia. Minimum wage in San Francisco is actually the second highest in the country currently, coming in at roughly $17 an hour. I think it's $16.99. In terms of salary, according to information from 2013 to 2017, the median income in San Francisco is $96,000 for households and then $74,000 for individuals. Now, that was like over 5 years ago, so obviously that number is a lot higher now, especially with the insane inflation we've seen this past year. So this is kind of why a six-figure salary in California is so common, especially in the Bay Area. You'll see a lot of employees in the tech industry reportedly earning easily over six figures for starting compensation, so that's pretty good as well. Alright, so let's start with some living expenses. Probably the most ridiculous statistic about the cost of living in San Francisco is the fact that the median home price is over $1 million. This city is the most expensive city in the entire country for buying a home. Even rent is extremely high in the city, with prices easily upwards of $3,000, $4,000 a month. Here's a pretty good breakdown of the prices you can expect for rent based on the number of bedrooms, based on the size of the house, etc., etc. Now, despite these high prices, so many people want to live in San Francisco for a number of reasons. The weather's really nice all year round. They have a lot of beautiful parks around the area that is pretty easy to walk to. There are great opportunities for your career and a strong network for professional development and high-paying jobs. And honestly, it's just like a nice place to live, but with high demand and, the difficulty with constructing new homes because of it's a limited area. Prices have naturally soared to these insane levels, which is pretty much why all the housing in San Francisco is so expensive now. Knowing all this information and the fact that me and my friends are frugal and money efficient, we decided to try out a hostel. A hostel can be a lot cheaper than a hotel or an Airbnb since it's in a shared space, and we found an extremely affordable one near Fisherman's Wharf for about $43 a person for one night, and we had to pay also a $4 membership, so total came out to $47.50 per person, which in my opinion is pretty good deal. Me and my two friends shared a room with 3 random people, so 6 total people in a room. And honestly, I thought it was a bit sus in the beginning because I wasn't sure about, keeping my valuables out in the open, like my camera, my laptop, my wallet, with random strangers. But overall, it was fine. It's definitely an experience and not for everyone, since you are sharing a lot of the same amenities with strangers, like your room, all the common places, the bathroom, showers, etc. And I know that people like privacy, but if you're visiting San Francisco for a short period of time and looking for something, more affordable, and maybe you're a bit adventurous if you want to meet random people, I think this is a really good option. Plus, the neighborhood around Fisherman's Wharf is really pretty, so check this out. So in San Francisco, the transportation index is over 150, but despite this, it's actually not too difficult to get around with a car. About 40% of people in San Fran don't actually own a car. And what we found was that between the Ubers, buses, trolleys, cable cars, and just walking around, you can actually get to a lot of locations in the city without the need for a car. This will save money on, insurance, parking, gas, and a car overall is like pretty expensive with like maintenance and everything, and you don't really necessarily need one. Average car insurance is about $1,500 a year, which is actually not too far off from the national average. Garage parking though can be like pretty expensive and it can increase your monthly expenses anywhere between $100 upwards of $600 a month, depending on the neighborhood you're in and how often you actually need to use a garage. Gas prices though are pretty killer, and they're actually really high compared to the national average, currently sitting at above $5 a gallon at the time of this recording. And funny thing is, at the time of my trip, which was about 3 to 4 months ago in June and July-ish, gas prices were actually above $6 a gallon. So yeah, it can get pretty crazy to pay for things like gas as well. For me and my friends on this trip, we drove straight from Yosemite National Park to visit San Francisco. We obviously had to fill up our gas tank to the full before we dropped it off, so we spent roughly $32.55 for about 4.8 gallons, which is, if you do the math, it's about $6.50 per gallon. We divided that up with 3 people. So overall, I paid about $10 to $11 for gas, so we can add that to the count. But besides that, our transportation method was primarily walking. We did use Uber about 3 times to drive around our hostel to various locations around the city, including the airports. So one of our Ubers was $16.68, another one was $12.14, and then the one to the airport, which is a little bit longer, SFO, was $67.30. We also got to use the cable car system to go to downtown, which was about $8 a person. When you divide all of that by 3, it's about $50.89 per person, so we can add that to the count as well. All right, let's talk about food. So typical monthly grocery cost in San Francisco is about $350 a month, which is roughly 20% higher than the national average. According to data from Numbeo, an inexpensive meal at a San Francisco restaurant on average will cost roughly $20. For a 3-course meal for 2 people at a mid-tier restaurant, you can expect to pay $100 plus a standard 15% for tip. Something that's pretty unique to San Francisco that I didn't really know about was that employers are actually responsible for contributing money to cover healthcare. So a lot of the times when you're out at a restaurant, you're going to see something called a health surcharge that is unique to San Francisco. And this is commonly added to restaurant bills to cover healthcare for their employees, like I said. The average charge is anywhere between 4 to 5% of the total bill. You will see it some of the times when you're at restaurants. We saw it a couple of times when we were eating out. For dinner, when we first arrived in San Fran, me and my friends went to a place called Barrio Chino in San Francisco. It's an Asian fusion restaurant that serves kind of like contemporary Mexican and Asian dishes. And we ordered a variety of things. We ordered some scallion bread, garlic noodles, stir-fry vegetables, sesame beef. The total with tip and tax and all that stuff was about $30 per person, so we can add that to the total as well. You can see in the receipt that the sales tax is 8.3%, so it's really high. And then you'll see this San Francisco health ordinance surcharge that we talked about, which is 5% on this bill. The next day on Fisherman's Wharf, we ate at an Italian seafood eatery called, I'm gonna butcher the name, but it's Chiapinos, something like that. But it's essentially this Italian seafood place, and I ordered the linguine with clam and lemon butter. So with tax and tip, I paid about $35. And you'll see again on that receipt that there's a roughly 5% surcharge added for that health ordinance again. But besides that, we didn't really eat that much besides those 2 restaurants. We still had a bunch of snacks from our time at Yosemite, and we also took advantage of the Priority Pass restaurants when we went to the airport due to the credit cards that I have. I made sure to use my American Express Gold Card to maximize my points and rewards for eating out at restaurants. And I also made a video about that, so check that out if you want. All right, there are many things to do in the city, but you don't actually need to spend that much to enjoy your time in San Francisco. When we initially arrived, we checked out a premier San Francisco destination known as Ghirardelli Square. And this place is beautiful. There's restaurants, shops, hotels. ice cream shops, candy, lots of like, it's just really aesthetic and pretty at night. Lots of people there, it's very lively. And we of course wanted to see the Ghirardelli store, which is known for their famous chocolate. And of course we had to grab a chocolate bar, so I paid about $3 for that as well. Another really awesome thing we did during this trip was we visited Alcatraz Island. Tickets to this like famous attraction was about $36, $37 per person. Alcatraz is a small island in the San Francisco Bay. It's about 1.2 miles offshore from San Francisco, and you actually need to take a boat to get there. Around the 1930s and 1960s, it was actually a federal prison for like some of the most dangerous prisoners in the country, including Al Capone. So we got to experience an audio tour and actually explore the island for as long as we wanted before we sailed back to San Francisco. It's a very popular and famous attraction that we all really enjoyed. All right, so overall, this is how much we spent. It was above $200, but it wasn't really anything, in my opinion, crazy. San Francisco is the most expensive city. You know, despite this, you don't really necessarily need to spend a crazy amount of money to have fun in this city. If you want to live here full time and like buy a house, that's a different story because, you know, $1.4 million is kind of insane. But, you know, 24 hours in San Francisco, really good time. If you guys want to see what else I did in California, check out my video here where I spent 3 days in Yosemite National Park, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.